Hey everybody, it's Mark Ruggiero here, Clark Commando 1983. It's April 25th, 2024. And what I've got set up here is GMT Games, Unconditional Surrender. And if you enjoy this video, please like, please subscribe, please comment if you watch. If I make a mistake, they're all mine. If you want to correct it, please do. What I'm going to attempt here is this will be a long series, hopefully, on a campaign game. And starting in September 39 and running through the end of the game. I'll also be talking about the rules, after action report, and I recently did some other videos on this that you can look in the playlist, my playlist for this game. I will make this a separate playlist. The other one, I went through the scenarios and whatnot. And my intent with this is going to be to correct a few minor errors I made in that, but also to hopefully, hey, bump the pre-orders up and honestly give me something to do while I fight cancer. I had my chemo yesterday, and I don't know, just things are progressing. Let's just put it that way. But thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I will be getting some kind of prize video up hopefully soon. I know I'm behind schedule for the 1,000 viewers that we went over a while back. And hopefully I can speak clearly. So anyways, let's get started. I want to note a couple of notes. I'm using the rules that are currently available on the GMT website for the living rules. And the charts that I'm using are dated 2024. These are all recommended by Salvasta, the designer, and those charts and whatnot are on Board Game Geek. So, that being said, I wanted to go over a couple of notes that were caught in some errata. So on the back of the production counters for all the countries actually. For example, let's see here. We got what's a simple one? We got Hungary here. So you'll notice, let's see if we can get it, and it says start at 1. Well, that's what they have for production. But all the countries have that. So I've already set up Poland. There's some off-map. Let me see if we can get them in here really quick. Just a quick glance. The country charts. And Poland is on the Western Allied one. And on the back of their counter, I believe it says start with a production of 9. Well, actually, they only get 6, because that's how many factories they have. And let me make sure. Let's see, starting production 6. Well, maybe I got it backwards. Yeah, I'm sorry. Production's 3, not 6. Like it says, because they only have 3 factories. They have one here in Brest, one in Warsaw, and they start with one in Posen. So, all right, so there's that note. Also of note, when you play the game, make sure to check the event markers. One mistake that I made early on that I discovered I was doing wrong was the ground support markers. And I'll show you one of those. Germans start with a couple. Western Allies start with a couple. There you go. ground support. Okay, what's of note with these markers is actually they can only be used by countries that don't have air or armor to start. So that means for their minor allies, basically. So, for example, like I said, the Western Allies have a couple. They can't be used for Britain or France because they actually have an air force or armor, but they can be used here in Poland. Also, you may have noticed that there's a little die on the counter, and I've covered that in my other videos, but that's once they get used, you roll a dice, and that's how many turns they can come back. So I would say when you use the event markers, be sure to read them, okay? Another thing is the tank markers are country specific. And I'll give you an example on one of those. And Germany has some, but I'll show you the UK. Okay. And what those do, and these come back every turn, so you can use them, but they can only be used with your land-based armies. Non-armor. So you can't use them on top of any armor that you have. So, for example, when Germany does get theirs, you could not use it with conjunction of, say, whoop, can we get this in the focus? Let's see. There we go. 2nd Panzer Army. But you could use it with one of your field armies. And for all intents and purposes, gives you a bonus. And it turns that into a armor unit. There again, make sure you read your event marker descriptions for that. All right, so what we're going to try to do to keep this video to a manageable length, let's see here. We'll try to get through, and this will be the first turn of a campaign. So we're going to run through the whole 9 yards. This, I'll show you the sequence of play here, which I've shown in my other videos. Trying to get me a little room here so I don't destroy anything. All right, the weather automatically is fair. Oh, and let me point out a couple other things. You'll see, let me use my cool little pointer here. Hopefully I can do that without destroying anything. Just for GPs, I went ahead, none of these forces are in play, but I put all the neutral countries' forces out in their countries. They're not set up. They're just out, ready to go. Just something I chose to do. And this scenario that we're playing is like I said, you want to go to the GMT site to print out the rules and the new playbook, just to make sure you get the latest. And the charts are super important because there are some differences. But we're playing the main event. Starts, like I said, September 39, and it could end depending on either July 44, July 45, or July 46. And a lot of it depends on what the Germans do. For purposes of this, I'm going to be, actually it depends, because when appeasement's lifted and when the Nazi-Soviet Pact's lifted, for purposes of this video and this replay, I'm going to do the historical West first. But what normally happens is, in this scenario, and this is up to a 3-player scenario, that would be solitary. All your policies are in effect except for the Moscow Treaty. And there again, this is a learn to play, but I'm not going to cover every rule in detail. Will as needed. And then your policy, for example, or appeasement. Nazi Soviet pact policy. Okay? Let's start out in effect. And there's certain things that happen when those things get lifted. The diplomacy markers are all the start ones are put in my handy candy Panzer Grenadier HQ cup that I got a long time ago. And we'll go over how the diplomacy system works when I get to that phase. Oh my goodness. So sorry. And then conditional events. All are eligible to be in play. And conditional events are in Rule 13. And okay, so let's see here. So what you would do normally is set the stage for the scenario before setup. And we went with the historical. You can also use a variable, but you call it set the stage. The Axis player would decide to do west first, which is the historical opening, which is what I'm going to do. Or you can do east first, and you can also do wide open. So or variable. And it tells you in this scenario what to do, but just for an example, if the Axis, say I chose, I'm going to do variable, and that's exactly what it is. You would do setup, and then in the first turn's declaration of war phase, the Axis faction would roll a die, and on a 1 through 3, they get to declare war on the Soviet faction, and on a 4 through 6, declare war on the Western faction. Then there's the East first, and we're not doing that, and that is in the declaration of war phase. You would declare war on the Soviet faction, and then Poland, which would activate as a Soviet country. But we're going to do West first. So we've already done our setup, and when we get to the declaration of war phase, we'll be declaring war on the Western faction and Poland, which will activate as a Western minor. You also have to make a decision on Italy. Now, Italy can be part of the regular diplomacy, which there's a slight chance they could join the Allies, but at the recommendation of the designer, and it's in either the playbook or the rule book, I don't remember which, probably the playbook, he suggests for your first game or two, because that can really make the game super difficult for Germany if they do go, is that the only way the Italians go allied is if Germany declares war on them. Now, it doesn't mean they can't be neutral, doesn't mean you can't try to mess with them as the Western allies, but it basically kind of helps ensure maybe a little bit more balanced game. So, all right. So let's get going here. I'm already gonna have to look up one quick rule here that I gotta look at. I was a little bit confused by, and I should have done this before I started. But anyways, like I said, if appeasement, okay, that's under declarations of war. What I was looking at, and I'm not confused by it, I did the highlight. It's one of the few highlights I got, is in the politics section under declaration of war. If either the appeasement or Nazi-Soviet pact is in effect, both the Western and Soviet factions cannot declare war. And then conditional. Okay, we did play that right. All right. All right. So, important note that you'll find in Rule 10.3.1 Home Defense, and I highlighted it. And just one of the things one thing you want to make sure you do when you're playing this is read the whole rule. But under UK conditional for home defense, until the Mediterranean crisis or the West invaded conditional event occurs, UK units in overseas areas cannot move. That's Gibraltar, Malta, Egypt. And that's unless the Mediterranean crisis or the West invaded conditional event is met. And if you go look at those conditional events, let's see here. Basically, it boils down to when an Axis unit moves into attacks. It's a way to, I would say, do the phony war. All right. So let's get started with play. Hopefully we won't get interrupted. If we do, this will be video 1. I guess it's kind of late to mention that, isn't it? All right. So the first thing that happens, and we're going to skip it because for this scenario it's all fair, is weather. The Axis always roll for that. And remember, all these other phases are completed in faction order of Axis, Western Allies, and then the Soviets, you'll notice at the top. So declarations of war. All right, so we will declare war on the Western faction. I'm going west first, and then Poland. So the first thing that happens is you, in the game, when you do something, you look up the effect and implement it. So the first thing that happens, we're going to go to, I believe it's Rule 13, is the appeasement is going to be lifted, which is not as freeing as you think, but it does mean you can do some things. So let's see here. Appeasement ends. Appeasement. An Axis country cannot move, retreat, trace path, nor be placed into a Western country. Okay? Western and Axis units cannot attack or intercept each other. That's lifted. A Western counter cannot remove, retreat, trace a path, nor be placed in an enemy country. Neither the Western faction or the Soviet faction can declare war. Remember, that's still in effect, even though appeasement's lifting, because it's the same restriction in Nazi-Soviet pact. A Western unit must end its movement in its own country or a map box. And that's lifted. USSR national will is reduced by 40, so that's lifted. So the first thing that happens, I got to be really careful here because with my cancer, my balance is just terrible. So I'm going to stand up, and the national will of the Soviets goes from 45 to 85 because now appeasement is lifted. All right, that's the effects of appeasement, but it's being lifted because we're ending appeasement. All right. I believe that's the only impact. Now we're going to go through the events. So country activates, so we've already set up. This is already part of the initial setup. You know, we've already know what faction it's going to join per the scenario. Talking about Poland here. There's a whole set of rules for that. Setup's already done per the scenario. There's some special cases for French North Africa, Syria or Vichy. And then we get into country collapse. There's a set of steps, but we're not there yet. Right now we're activating. All right, so let me just make sure we didn't miss anything. And there are nice bullet points in the rule book for country setup. Oh my goodness. All right. So that's the declaration of war step. And we are 20 minutes in. So we're going to really try to get through this turn as best we can, the German half of the turn. And what I may do for future videos is do a turn and then report out. But I'm probably going to do some play-alongs initially. So then the next phase is the economy phase. Now that's pretty easy to do. It's already kind of done for you. But in the setup, but basically you have on the player aid fact, and I'll just go over the Axis Germans. Factory count minus any loss from strategic warfare, and once that starts, should we have done that already? Since we just lifted appeasement. Dang it. No, I don't think so. No. That's not activated until the West gets attacked. Let me double check. Dang it. 13. Let's see. West invaded. Yeah, so that was right. There's a nice little abbreviated conditional event checks on page 52 of the new rules. So factory count is your number of factories. So Germany has 13. Would be minus any for strategic warfare, but there's no strategic warfare until the West is attacked. And that would be your factories lost. And then any extra factories. You get that total, multiply it times 2, so 13 for the Germans times 2 is 26. And there's no saving of production points. There's none of that. So, and when we get to the replacements and mobilization, we'll go over how those are spent. And they're actually spent during activation here too. So like I said, no strategic warfare would be the next phase. So we're going to skip that. Strategic movement at this point, none. I'll go over that rule when I do a strategic movement. It's honestly pretty simple, and you get a marker for that. You basically get to move one army. So, or two if you happen to maybe get 2 markers. But so now we do the operation phase. Now this is the heart and soul of the game, and we're gonna go into that right now. And this is where you would do invasions, your movement, and whatnot. But I'm gonna cover that in some detail here as we invade Poland. So here we go. We're kicking off. All right. So operations. So the first thing you do is, if any country is not satisfying its home defense policy, for most countries that you got to leave one army behind within its mainland borders. There's some exceptions for the UK, the Soviet Union, and Germany. Germany is basically, they have to have 2 air within 3 and France and whatnot, but in their own country, in 3 field armies. Now that's important. The UK's states just land units. For the Germans, it says field armies, which are these, and not garrisons. Which garrisons are, for example, have these white stripes on the bottom. They're 1-step units. And then on the Eastern Front, it's 2 air units and 3 field armies. So we have plenty because we're getting ready to invade Poland. All right. And then when we're done, so I said this is the heart and soul of the game. And what I really like about it is you spend movement points. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen a lot of this. And I'm not going to get into whether my play is good or not. That's very debatable, right? Ha ha ha. All right. So here we go. So right off the bat, and remember the goal. Well, I mean, I guess you didn't, unless you watch my other videos. You want to drive. We want to drive the Polish willpower down to 0, so we can do a conquered country check. And basically, you get each city we capture will be -2. The capitals are -4. Each field army now, and not a garrison, is -1. Each one that gets eliminated. Okay? So, that being said, I am going to actually try something a little bit different. And I don't know if I'm going to regret it or not. But we're going to activate the 18th Field Army here. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Just so you can watch the action. So the process is we're going to activate it's actually the 16th Field Army here. That costs a production point. And we know that by there's a production point cost chart, plus it's in the rules. Now every unit in the game has 10 movement points except for leg armies. So that has 8 movement points to start with. So what we're going to do is, well, you know what, let's not overthink it. I'm going to show you a legal move. So when you're in a Zoc, okay, you cannot move from Zoc to Zoc in the same enemy unit. You can move from a Zoc and you can move out and then move. And once you enter a Zoc, you have to either stop, mark assault, or do a mobile assault. But what is legal is you can start in the Zoc of one unit and move directly into a Zoc of another unit. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. That costs 1 movement point. Okay? Now, this may not be the best move, but I'm specifically doing that move to just to get a Zoc on that unit. And you'll see why in just a minute. And that's it. And I will go ahead and mark them with an assault marker, which is legal, because I haven't done any mobile assaults yet. And once you commit to an assault, you still don't necessarily have to do it, but just in case. Okay? All right. Make sure you can see that. All right. Now, my next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to clear away from my panzers. So this might be just a little too much. Let's see if I go 1, Now, so you notice this, you can't go, it costs 2 because that's an enemy-controlled city. I'm going to give you an example here of the Zoc rules and how they work. So I'm not starting in a Zoc. Now, if I move here, then I either have to stop 1 or stop and mark with an assault, which you could resolve at any time, or do a mobile assault. I don't want to do that. Okay. The other one, if I activate the 4th army, is I could go 1. Now, stacking's in effect at all times. The only reason this move would be legal is because there's no enemy Zoc to stop and make me have a choice. So I could go 1, 2, 3, and that would capture the city. It costs 2 movement points because it's an enemy-controlled city. And you can't use the -1 for transportation lines to nullify that. Okay? All right. But I don't want to do that because the whole purpose of moving this guy here, so I am going to activate the 4th army. And that costs a production point. And I'll show you, so we get this little movement track here. You can't see, I'm marking my 8 movement points. Okay, I'm going to go 1. Now I'm in a Zoc. Now I have to decide, do I stop? Do I stop and mark it assault, or do I do a mobile assault? Well, I'm going to do a mobile assault. So we spent 1 movement point there. It's going to be 1 to cross the river, 2 for the clear, and 3 to launch the mobile assault with the 4th army. So that's 3 more movement points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Started with 8. Leaves me 4 movement points. So now we're going to go to the combat procedure because I'm doing a mobile assault. Okay? Now normally, when you're playing your opponent, you're each going to secretly pick will commit or don't commit, which allows you to allocate event markers and also 1 air unit in support. So that being said, playing solitaire, obviously, we're going to go with doing, oh my goodness, ugh, gotta open this sortie bag here open. All right, we are going to do commit. Both sides are going to commit here. So Germany's committing a air sortie, and you don't actually move the air units. This base is here. We're going to mark it with a 1 sortie marker. And that is now committed. The Poles don't have any air to submit or commit. So later on, I'll show you what happens when both sides. Now it goes to the Polish player, the Western Ally. They're going to go ahead and commit a ground support marker to the battle. We'll just kind of place it over here so I don't forget. I can only commit 1 of those. And then it comes back to the Germans. They don't have anything else to commit. So now we figure out the DRMs. Okay, the DRMs are conveniently listed on your new charts that you're going to print out from Board Game Geek. And I'm not going to go over each one. Maybe I should, but I won't. So the Germans, we're going to do the Germans first. And both sides roll a dice in this game, which is kind of cool. I like that too. So the Germans get a +2 because they're German. They get a +2 because of the air support. And now they get a +2 because this unit is isolated. And no, it's not isolated. I just blew that rule. Darn it. Okay, well, we're going to play as is. But let me finish explaining what I just screwed up. A unit is isolated if it has a Zoc of enemy units surrounding it, And it would be isolated, except for this is still a friendly controlled city. So if there's a friendly controlled city or unit next to the poles, they're not isolated. So I kind of blew that. The other thing that's kind of unique is, now granted, I have a unit here, but it's not attacking. This guy, so the Germans are going to get a -1. So their net DRM will be +3 on their dice. I get a -1 for the river. Now, if you were doing an assault, you pick a lead unit, and obviously you'd pick a lead unit without the river. That's what would determine the terrain effects. And the Poles are going to get a +1 to their die roll because of the oh my goodness, the ground support. All right, so here we go. We're going to roll the die. Of course, gray for the Germans, green for the Poles. The PG is the 6. Okay, so both sides roll a 3. Can you see that? I guess not. Well, anyways, it's over here, 3. So the German net result is, let's pull the chart up here. Trying to do it without bumping my tripod. 3 + 3 is a 6, and the Poles defended at 3 + 1 is a 4. You cross-reference, ignore the +2, that's for air-to-air combat. So net result is a defender retreat. Now, because of the Zocs, this guy cannot retreat. So he's going to get flipped. Can't retreat into a Zoc, even if there's a city there, I believe. Let's just double check that. Because normally I'm smart and capture the cities before I do this. But like I said, I'm trying something a little bit different here. Because I want to be able to explain all the rules. Combat. Retreats. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. The attack and ground is performing amphibious invasion. Unit cannot retreat into an enemy city or fort. An enemy unit cannot retreat next containing enemy zone of control. Ah, see? Learn something new every day. Unless it contains a friendly city or fort. Unless it is putting a 1 hex and the unit is also putting a 1 hex gap between it and the attacker. So that's not the case here, and I'll explain why. Let me read. A unit cannot retreat into a hex containing an enemy zone of control unless it contains a friendly city or fort, and the unit is also putting a 1 hex gap between it and the attacker. And you can't violate. So if you can't retreat, if it's reduced, it would be eliminated, and a full strength unit is flipped. All right. So that being the case, the net result of this combat is they're flipped and they stay in place. They can't retreat here because it doesn't create the 1 hex gap. Okay. So that being said, the ground support here has a die on it. So we're going to roll just to see how many turns before it can come back. So we roll 4. I'm going to try not to block the camera here. So this comes back 4 turns later. 1, 2, 3. So January 1940. I'm going to try to slide out in front here. In case you get to look at my back. All right. Now the German 4th Army still has 4 movement points left. So we're going to spend 3, 1 for the river, 1 for the hex, and 1 for the mobile assault to attack again. Okay, so this time, so the DRM modifiers are reset to 0. You would go through the commit, don't commit. So at this time, the Western Allies have 1 ground support marker left. I'm going to save that for later. The Germans are going to they're going to do another air sortie. Because I really don't think there's a whole lot of reason to save air sorties. I mean, if there is, and you'll see why when we get to a regroup phase, but we're going to mark this one this time. So there again, we're going to have the +2 for German, +2 for the air support, -1 for the river. Oh, yep, still no isolated. And this time the Poles get a -2 to their die roll because of the reduced unit. And by the way, you get these neat little markers in the track, marking the DRMs with. So, anyways, like I said, I really like that both sides get to make decisions and whatnot. Alright, so we're going to roll. Here we go. Ooh, this is not good. It might still be good enough, but both players rolled a 6. And I gotta tell you, the combat chart is not totally linear. So let's see. The German roll is a 6. And I'll show you again here. I'm not going to show this every time. So we get a 6 plus 3 is a 9. Okay. Now the Poles rolled a 6, but they're -2, so their result is a 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we still get a DD result. Okay. So a DD result, and that's of course going to kill this, is normally you would lose a step, and then have to retreat, but they're already half strength. So, okay, so this is going to go for now in the eliminated box of the Western Allied player aid card. National will for Poland drops by 1 because that was a field army. As the attacker, now do I want to advance? I think I do. I don't really have a reason for not advancing. And I have 1 movement point left, which is just enough to do what I wanted to do. And that is move into this hex so we could isolate Posen here. Okay? And that ends the 4th Army's activation. I'm just tilting it just a hair to note that it's been activated. All right, well, plan going according to plan. So now we're going to activate the 8th Army. And we're going to spend another production point of Germany's. And we're going to go up to 8 movement points. And if at some point I have to stop this video, I don't have, sadly, I don't have very good editing capabilities or skills right now. So I would have to make this part 1 wherever we get to. But I'm hoping to get through the activation or get through the whole turn if I can, but at least the German activation. All right, so we're going to activate the 8th Army. Now they're in Posen this time. And so we want to attack, so that's going to cost actually 2 movement points because it's enemy city, +1 for the mobile assault or attack. You want to use the correct terminology. That leaves me 5 movement points. I'm going to do the commit, not commit. I think this is one where, just for the heck of it, both sides, I'm going to commit both sides. This will be the last ground support. And we'll do another air sortie. Now your air sorties, you can go up to 6 of them. And now this unit will be on its 2nd air sortie. And they can do ground support within 5 hexes. So this is easily within the 5 hexes. Okay. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the mods. The Germans get +2 for being German, +2 for the air support. Now, this is a case where this guy is isolated, so that's another +2. And surrounded by units or Zocs, no cities or friendly units adjacent. So that's another +2, -1 for the city. So that's 5. And the Poles are going to get +1 to their die roll for the ground support unit. So we're going to roll, and the Poles get a 5, +1's a 6. Germans get 4, +5's a 9. So that's going to be a defender retreat. Yes, correct. Defender retreat. They can't retreat, so they're flipped. That means the 8th Army is going to spend another 3 points to attack again. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use air support. Okay. And we go through the mods once again. We're going to roll a die for the Polish unit. The Western Allied ground supports. They'll all come back in 3 turns. Now you could wait till the end of the battle to do this, but I just prefer to do it now. So 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right. And once again, those have a little die on the counter. That's how you know. One thing that's good about this game, there's a lot of information on the counters. All right, well, we're attacking again. So for the Germans, because we committed the air, oops, I am OCD, so let's fix this. All right. So it'll be +5 again, +2 for Germans, +2 for isolated, +2 for the air, and then -1 for the city. And the Polish this time don't have the ground support, so they'll be -2. So pretty much, I think, regardless of what I roll, we should take Posen. Oh, these dice are pretty high rolling. I like that, I guess. And they both roll 5s. So 5 + 5 for the Germans is a 10. And a 5 - 2 for the Polish is a 3. So there again, a DD result. Now this time, so like I said, this is going to, at least for now, go over in the eliminated box for the Western Allies. And the will drop by 1, the Polish will, so it's down to 10. And let's see, I got 2 moves, so we're going to advance. So what we need to do is place a German control marker in Posen, because you have to actually gain control of cities in this game. And that actually now drops the will because it is occupied a city. The Polish will drops another 2. Whoops. Messed up a little stack of conditional units I got over here. Dang it. Cancer, cancer, cancer. That's 8 national will points left for Poland. Now this unit, the 8th, has 2 movement points left. So, what do I want to do with that? I think, do I actually even want to move them? That's the thing, right? Because stacking's in effect at all times, right? So you got to be careful. You don't want to block your units from having opportunities. So I wouldn't want to go 1, 2, because that would now block this hex from me getting another unit in there to attack there. Even though there's a transportation 1, 2, 3, I don't have enough to take the city. there's really no reason. I suppose it's not really going to hurt anything, is it, if I go here? So we'll go here just because. Okay, so that ends that unit's activation. Take the movement point tracker, go to 0. Now what's next? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, that would be too many. Oh boy, did I screw this up? Maybe I did. Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I could get here. 1, 2, 3, 5. That's not good. Huh. I might have screwed this up here. Let's see. Really gonna try to get to Warsaw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't need 11. 2. No, that's not good. Yeah, I might have blown it here, folks. We got Alright, well, we're going to activate. I might have blew this. We're going to activate the 1st Panzer Army up here. That's going to cost 2 production points. So we'll see. I might have really blown this. I'm not. Alright, so the first thing, you get 10 movement points. So we can mark that. And then we're going to spend 2 movement points to enter Danzig. So we get a German control marker. And that's going to drop the Polish will by another 2. So down from 8 to 6. Okay. All right. Now, let's see. That spent 2 movement points. Yeah, we could go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I can, we'll just do that. All right. I don't know if it's the best move. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To occupy another Polish city. And once we're in Azak, we either have to stop and mark assault, or do a mobile. So drops the will another 2. So there again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to attack this guy, actually. I know I won't get the isolation for that, but I will get some other bonuses, or maybe I can get lucky and eliminate this guy. We'll see. So there again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That leaves me 2 movement points. and the Western Allies no longer have anything to commit. I'm going to go ahead and commit a third sortie here with this air. And we're going to get some good bonuses here. Let's hope that the Poles just don't roll well. We're going to get 2 for Germans. And there again, I'm not going to go through, because I'm going to get 2 for the air support. And I get 2 because I'm attacking in clear weather. So that's a +6. And the Poles are going to be straight up. All right. Now it's +2 for the air, +2 for Germany, +2 because I'm a armor unit attacking in the fair, and there's no terrain. And the Germans get a 6, but the Poles roll a 5, so that's pretty good. So 12 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just enough to DD it. So they're gonna. Okay, this is, it's not horrible. And they have to retreat. So I could retreat here, which might probably not super bad. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to open up a path. This guy dies either way. I guess, anyways, I could retreat here, here, or here. And there's no real advantage or disadvantage except for, no, there is none. So I'll just, for argument's sake, retreat to here. Yeah, it's not going to really matter. Actually, this is the end of the Poles, and I'll show you why. So I advance after combat. That's free. And technically, I should be placing a no Zoc here, which means that unit doesn't exert a Zoc into this hex. But I have 2 movement points left. That's just enough to mobile assault here, right? 1 for the clear and 1 for the mobile assault. And do I even need to? Yes, I do, because I need to eliminate his Zoc. So we're going to go from 2 to 3 sorties here. We're going to commit air units. Okay. How are we doing on time? Oh boy, we're almost at an hour, huh? Well, I guess if you're going to watch this far, it is what it is, right? So committed there. So the German modifiers, once again, are going to be +6. 2 for German, 2 for the air, and 2 because I'm armor attacking in the fair. And the Polish are going to get a -2 because they're reduced. This went much better than the rolls I was getting at GMT West, let me tell you, for the Germans anyways, who I was playing. So this time I rolled a 4 and a 3. It's still not in your view, is it? I've been trying to share. Here we go. Right, yeah, so the Germans got a 4. +6 is 10. And yeah, this is going to be plenty. And a 1 would be a defender eliminated. All I needed really was a DD. So this unit, once again, goes in the eliminated box, lowering the Polish will to 3. Do I want to advance? I'm going to do it just for... So one of the things you do, and it's not an issue here, but one thing when you do your advances and moves, you want to keep in mind supply, which is basically 2 hexes back to a transportation line that leads back to a city in your home country, basically. And sometimes you can get in situations where you may not want to advance because that could put you out of supply. Excuse me, but here it doesn't really matter. All right, so this is all good news for the Germans, and I'm going to show you why here in just a second. So we're going to spend 2 production points to activate the 2nd Panzer Army. I'm at 21, so we're going to go to 19 production points. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to enter Warsaw, which is going to knock, it's a capital, that knocks the Polish will down by 4. We only have 3 left. So they are at 0, which meets the conditional event for conquered. So you immediately go resolve that. And so we're going to go to conditional events, rule 13. I'm going to go over it. I'll go over it in more general terms in future videos. So we're not doing country activation. We're not doing setup. Country collapse. A country immediately collapses if its national will is at 0. This is rule 13.2. Or all of its mainland cities are under enemy control. Exception, the USSR cannot collapse if the current turn is 1943 or later. A country that collapses without being conquered remains an active country. So an active country can collapse multiple times. Exceptions, UK or USA can only collapse 1 time. All right. Country collapse procedure. This is where I'm trying to be careful on how I read this for your benefit, okay? Conquered 13.2.2. Okay. If a country is conquered, see country. Now let's make sure we're doing the right. A country immediately collapses if its national will drops to 0. Exception, the USSR. Country collapse. I believe we're doing conquered, though. A country is considered conquered. Yeah, which country caused the collapse? So one note here that's important for this game that's different is once you conquer a country, it doesn't matter. You actually don't control the cities unless you move into it. So we're going to go through the procedure here, but like Krakow will remain uncontrolled for now. So I actually move in there. But you do this. So conquered country. Here's the process. Remove all the conquered counters from the scenario. So we're going to pick up all the Polish markers and counters, and they don't have any over on the turn track for reinforcements or anything. So these are all removed from this scenario. So, like I said, I got to be careful standing up here because of my cancer. All right. So, for right now, These willpower markers are not needed. We'll eventually put these in a baggie. Just for now, get them out of the way while I'm filming. I'm going to put them here on the edge of the map. Production marker comes off. The next step is the will marker number 1, just to show who conquered it. Let me see here. Step 2 puts a friendly production, pro faction. Okay, we're not there yet. All right, let's follow this. So step 2, so we removed everybody. Then I get to place a friendly pro-faction marker in the diplomacy cup. I get to place one of these in the diplomacy cup, which is going to be helpful, hopefully. And then I can do one of the following. I can select one neutral country that has an enemy pro-faction or strict neutrality marker and remove it. There's none on the board. We just started. Or I can select one neutral country that has no pro-faction or strict neutrality marker in it, and which shares a land border with the just conquered country. Put a friendly pro-faction marker in its capital hex. Use the border in effect before the disputed area is done. So that's important because before we're done walking through these steps, the Soviets are going to gain control of Eastern Poland. But they don't currently. So I want to make sure that maybe I get a shot at Romania. So I'm going to place a pro-Axis faction in Bucharest. I don't know if you can see that. Let me zoom back out so you can kind of see that, I think, now, right here. Yeah, right there. There we go. All right. If the Axis faction conquered the country, so now I put the will marker in the conquered allied countries box on the German track just to show that it was Germany that conquered Poland. The number of countries in the Axis conquers impacts the strategic warfare DRM. Oh, okay, I didn't realize. Oh, maybe we missed that in our last game. Or it wasn't an impact. Take one German ground unit from its faction card's conditional event box and put it in the eliminated box. I have a bunch of garrison units here in the event conditional event, so put that one of them in the eliminated box. Increase Germany's national will by 2, so that means we'll go from 45 to 47. National will is important all the way around. Exception is if it was Italy, it would go up by 8. If Italy was conquered, no, it wasn't conquered. If Poland was conquered, the Polish corridor disputed area is ceded to Germany. If Poland was conquered, the Polish corridor disputed area is ceded to Germany. Polish corridor, so that's Danzig up here. You'll see it's marked. So now that becomes part of Germany. And we're going to put that in the ceded area. And then if the Nazi-Soviet Pact is still in effect, which it is, the Eastern Poland disputed area is ceded to the USSR. USSR is increased by 2. And they also get a unit from their conditional event box. So, I can go up here. I hope I can do this without messing anything up. We're going to get, where is it? There it is. So Russia gets control of that. And they also get to take an army from here, this conditional event box, and add that to their eliminated units. This is one way that Russia actually gets to start building up your army, which you'll see later on. Okay. And that's it. We conquered a country. All right. Now the question is, now I can continue on with my oh my goodness, my operations phase for Germany. This should speed things up. I'm going to spend 1. And like I said, you actually need to get control. So we're going to go 2, 3, 4, gain control of Krakow. So we actually have control of the city. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Like a lot of games, you don't necessarily get control of everything. And honestly, there's no reason to save production points, but at this point, I don't really need to save any, and I don't have anything else, so we're going to take this assault marker off. Now, this is where you check your supply state, and everybody's in supply because they can trace to a transportation line that goes back to Germany in a city. Straighten these guys out. And boy, this took a little longer than I thought, but explaining rules takes a little bit of time, doesn't it? All right. So now we go to the Western Allies. And I can't move anything that's over, let's see, what time is it here? So we're going to do 1 hour and 11. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video at this point. It's pretty long, and most of you probably haven't watched this far. And what I will do is I'm going to finish the operations segment for the Western Allies and the Soviet Union, and then I will come back with video part 2 to go over that, and then wrap up the rest of the phases. So we'll have no supply, then replacements, then upgrades, which won't be any, then mobilization, then the diplomacy, and the victory check. And that will get us through turn 1. Okay, that'll be 2 parts. And then I think what I'm going to have to do after that, we'll see, is I'll probably do recap videos. Because otherwise, this will turn into a way too long of a series. So, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. It helps with my mental being and my cancer fight. Thank you all. Bye.